Okay, I see Rumesh is going to be our speaker today. Would you like to say hello before we get started? I think we'll give it another 3 or 4 minutes before, just to, give everyone a chance to come on board.
Yeah, hi everyone. Thank you very much for joining, and nice to see you all. I'll give a formal introduction about myself as we move along. For now, thank you very much everyone for joining. Looking forward to an interactive session.
Okay, Rumesh, is there anything you'd like to do maybe to kind of keep, as an icebreaker, or, how would you, if we were all standing around the coffee machine before a conference, what would we be doing now?
Okay, maybe let's do a small icebreaker. I'll maybe share my slide deck and do a small activity with you all. So this is a small introduction about my country. I'm from Sri Lanka, right? I don't know how many of you know about Sri Lanka. I see some friends joining from Sri Lanka as well, but I'll give a quick introduction about my country. So Sri Lanka is a tiny island nation, 65,000 kilometers in area size. And within 3 or 4 hours, you can travel from the ocean, crystal clear oceans with nice sandy beaches, to the mountains within 3 to 4 hours. And Sri Lanka has a vibrant culture. So there are lots of religions and then lots of ethnicities are there. It's a vibrant country with a lot of events happening around. And it has a really rich culture as well. Lots of ruins, lots of places to visit, lots of greenery, waterfalls and things like that are there. And most importantly, we have really good people. Friendly people, always smiling. Wherever you go, you will see people like this, right? So I would like to hear from you all as well. Maybe you all can use the chat. If you all want, you all can unmute yourself and answer as well. Where are you all from? And what's something interesting about your country? So please do add that on the chat.
Well, I will be the daring one and respond instead of typing in the chat. My name is Andrea. I'm the Agile Access Festival Ambassador for the Bahamas. The Bahamas is located in the Caribbean, and we're a chain of islands that is made up of 700 islands and keys. So if you have not heard about the Bahamas before, we are closely located to Florida, so it's only a short hop away, and we're in the Caribbean, 700 islands and keys. So there's always something new to learn about any one of our islands. And I'm presently located on the capital island of New Providence. And our island is 21 miles by 7 miles. So, our speaker said it takes about 3 hours to drive to one side of his island to the next. It takes me about half an hour, but I'm a speeder. So don't be like me, take an hour. So that's it, I'm from the Bahamas.
Great. Anyone else who's there? Others also can put where you all are joining from on the chat.
Okay, well, I'll jump in. I'm Peter. I guess I can say I'm from Switzerland. I'm originally from the United States. I live in Switzerland now, and Switzerland is one of those places where it's an absolutely beautiful country, but how shall I say? You kind of have to get used to it, is I guess how I'll phrase it. But I've been here long enough that I'm probably never going to leave. I was really excited about hearing from the Caribbean. I'm just, really looking to see where everyone else is from. For the simple reason that I do this thing called personal agility, and part of our metaphor is we have long-term goals, which is Jamaica, which is, I guess, a neighbor of the Bahamas. Maybe we need to update that a bit. But anyway, so how do we get to the Bahamas? And that's also my calling right now. I've been in home office long enough. Thank you very much. I'm really looking forward to travel the world again. And if anyone has any ideas on how to solve this problem, I would love to get in an airplane and travel to visit you and give a talk to your community or your company. So I'm going to, let's see, is there anyone else who'd like to speak? I could pass the talking stick. Is there anyone else who'd like,
okay.
Alberto? Yes, Alberto.
Yeah. Let me come on mic. Hi, everyone. Good evening or good afternoon. It's past 3 p.m. here in Nigeria. I'm in Nigeria, Lagos. I'm I'm happy to be here. I'm part of the volunteers for Access Agile. And that's it from my side. And I've heard a lot about personal agility with Peter Stevens and the gang. Permit me to use that word. And I'm on that journey also. Thank you.
All right, I'll probably grab the talking stick right from here. So my name is Sriram Rajgopalan. I know it's a mouthful for some of you, but it's very simple. Just like the word number 3, drop the T and put a S, it's Sri, and then Ram. I am from India, but I live in the United States. I've been in the United States for the last 25 years at this point. But still India is India. So that's one of the reasons why when you said like, oh, tell me about where you are from, I'm like, okay, should I say I'm from India? Should I say I'm from the United States? But thanks to Peter for setting the trend. Like I'm from Switzerland, but I live in, I'm from United States, but I live in Switzerland. I've been part of the personal agility journey myself, recognized ambassador on that as well as in Scrum. But primarily I am trying to make a difference with people's life, focusing primarily on the younger children, high school, middle school, and college kids, trying to understand the principles of managing themselves, managing what matters to them, and becoming successful. That's what I'm quite excited about, among other things. With that, I will pass the talking stick to...
I can go.
All right, okay, Jacqueline.
Yes, I'm from Dallas, Texas. Well, I live in Dallas, Texas. Let me go back to the format that already started. I'm from Lubering, Missouri, which is a town of 190. And I did not mess that up. It is actually 190, very small. I moved to Texas about 2 years ago. And I basically came to Texas to start my tech journey. I started with UX design, went to full stack web development, and then now I'm Scrum and Agile, or Agile and Scrum. So I'm doing exactly what everybody else is doing. I'm trying to help give part of myself to change the world.
Okay, awesome. So I think at this point, what we'll do is it's about 10 after. So on the assumption that everyone who wants to be here is here, we will get started. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just give a little bit of an introduction to who we are, the Scrum Ambassadors. You'll notice that we have a kind of a consistent corporate identity here. And then I will pass the talking stick to Rumesh. So 1 second to share my screen. And here we go. So can everyone see Scrum for Beginners? What does it mean to be agile? And when I heard that this event was going to be focused on beginners, I thought, well, you know, what we're here for is to share the word on agility. We've got 3 members of the Scrum Ambassadors here. Sriram is also a member of the Scrum Ambassador. I hope I haven't missed anyone, but I think those are the current kind of recognized ambassadors, and of course, Rumesh. And so we decided to put together a series on, Scrum for Beginners. And so today we're going to focus on agility. So Rumesh is going to talk to us about what it means to be agile. And then we have a member from Egypt, Amar Abulnaga, who will be talking later today about doing agile versus being agile. Tomorrow, we're going to start looking at the relationship of the Scrum team. How do you manage a Scrum team, especially if you're a manager from the outside? And then Janani and I, another Ceylonese, I guess I should say, Janani Lianage and I will be talking about how to do sprint planning. Then on Saturday, we'll look at facts and myths. And then we have a Scrum clinic. Okay, we're going to do problem solving, peer coaching, and problem solving. And we'll have several of the ambassadors with us. And then Sriram will be closing out the program. How do you know your Scrum isn't working? If you'd like to check out the program, if you haven't signed up, you go to scrumambassadors.org/beginners. And as soon as I finish talking, I will paste all these links into the chat so that you can join us as well. So presently, there are 11 of us around the world. Our vision is very simple. Knowledge about agility should be easily accessible everywhere in the world, in any language for any industry. I started it way long ago. Probably Janani is the member with the most drive, who's maybe Liviu. We'll talk about, but it's a very active group with contributions from around the world. Myself, I'm probably best known as the creator of the personal agility system. I've been a Scrum trainer now for, well, depending on how you count, 10 to 15 years. I've been, as I say, most focused on personal agility. I've started a number of initiatives, including the Personal Agility Institute, the World Agility Forum. I facilitate a group of Agile executives, agileexecutives.org, which is actually a registered nonprofit association in Switzerland. And I currently serve as Chief Agility Officer for Vivior AG. We're a startup based in Zurich. Our motto is better health, better lifestyle through better vision. So how is the Scrum Ambassadors different than there are a lot of Scrum organizations out there? We start with a very simple understanding of Scrum. We're a simple team-based framework for solving complex problems. What's a complex problem? Well, developing a new product, especially if software is involved, is a complex problem. And taking your company to the next level is a complex problem. In my case, at Vivior, we're a startup and we have the problem that every startup has. We're about to run out of money. We're not getting the traction that we need, and we got to fix that problem and fix it quickly. Okay, and that's been my focus since I came on board. Where I think we differentiate ourselves is we take a very how shall I say? I don't want to say abstract. But we focus on the essentials, okay? And we represent the essentials through what I call the flower. So we have the 5 values of Scrum at the heart. Then we say, well, what does Scrum bring you? Well, it brings you cadence, okay? We want to inspect and adapt at frequent, regular intervals. We talk about ownership, okay? So we have a small team that solves the whole problem from idea to done. And that includes decision-making authority so that they can figure out what the right product is. We talk about tangible results. Now, what's a tangible result? Well, something you can use, something you can sell, or something you can test in real life in cadence, okay? We see companies like Bosch or 3M, where it used to take them years to develop a product, and now they can do it in weeks. Well, that comes from prototyping in a weekly cadence, and getting closer and closer to something that they can sell. And this is really what it's all about. It's about getting that tangible value, that tangible result sooner. Okay, so we have a role in Scrum called the Scrum Master, who's dedicated to helping the team and the organization improve their performance. Notice how this isn't about running faster. This is about getting that tangible result sooner, which is not quite the same thing. And finally, we talk about alignment, and we talk about leadership. So within the team, the team that owns the problem, there's one person who's authorized to make decisions. There's one person to talk to inside or outside the team for getting decisions about the product. And more generally, leadership, everybody, a Scrum team, a development team needs leadership. Some of it comes from inside the team, some of it comes from outside the team. Regardless of where it comes from, the people doing the work need guidance and support. And the leaders also need to know when it's time to stay out of the way so that they can actually get the work done. So what we see, what this leads up to, is that when we talk about agile transformation, what we're really talking about is restructuring the company to optimize for speed and value generation. This isn't something you bolt onto the undercarriage, it's redesigning the company, so which makes it an activity for, it's a concern at the top level of management. And we call this the essence of Scrum. How do we teach Scrum? Well, we have a tool called the Map of Scrum to help you understand Scrum. How is this different from what you'd hear someplace else? Well, we start with the Scrum Guide, like every reputable Scrum training body. Okay, now to that, we've added a very small segment, which we call behaviors. Okay, so Scrum is a wonderful system, but it needs the right attitude, the right behaviors. It starts with dialogue, responsibility, fast feedback, visualization. but perhaps most importantly are agreements. Okay, agreements are a powerful form of commitment. Commitments can be a bit one-sided, but agreements are peer-to-peer bidirectional. Even the decision to do Scrum is best seen as an agreement. Okay, so we emphasize working agreements as a way to improve your performance. And we've also added 2 agreements, which we call the forecast and the sprint contract, related to how you do sprint planning to make it visible and clear, both what are we trying to accomplish and how do we fail gracefully. Okay, now, like every organization, we have our career path. It starts with training at the Scrum team level. Then we go to advanced assignments. The most important thing we believe is to create alignment with your stakeholders. And this is where we have the partnership with the Personal Agility Institute, where we talk about how do you achieve alignment. Where does the path lead? Well, if you look to most organizations, they say that the destination is to be a coach, and you can go there if you want. But what we also see is because of that transformation, what's the difference between an executive coach and a chief agility officer? Well, it's that feeling of responsibility and being part of the team. You know, the chief officer is committed and accountable for the results, whereas a coach may be seen as someone who's more external. And so depending on what the right role for you, we see both as possible development paths. Similarly, on the product owner side, the first is to learn to work with the Scrum team or an Agile team, actually, of any kind as a product owner. Then we have that whole issue of stakeholder alignment. And again, this is where the cooperation with the Personal Agility Institute is very helpful here. And then we go to entrepreneurship. How do you figure out what to build? How do you get from an idea to a vision to a backlog? And how do you work with the team? Okay, and then ultimately, if your product is successful, well, how do you assure your position in the marketplace? So that is all that I'd like to say about the Scrum Ambassadors. That is the start of a conversation, not the end of the conversation. What I'd like to invite you to do is connect with us on LinkedIn. You can follow the Scrum Ambassadors on LinkedIn. You'll be among the first. We really just started our LinkedIn presence a few weeks ago. And I'm also going to paste in the chat the LinkedIn accounts of all of the Scrum Ambassadors who are speaking this weekend. So if you want to connect with anyone and get more information, you're welcome to do so. And so with that, I'm going to say thank you, Rumesh, for the floor time, and the talking stick is yours. And I wish the rest of you a great afternoon and a great conference.
Yep. Thank you very much, Peter. So let me share my screen. And I hope everyone can see the screen.
Yes, we can. But
okay, great. So the topic for today that I'm taking, I'll directly go into the topic because we are already maybe about 20 minutes to the session. I'll be focusing on Agile and agility, right? So Peter talked about Scrum, which is one way of working in Agile, which is one Agile framework. But I'll talk about what does it actually mean to be Agile? What do the Agile values and principles actually tell us in terms of being Agile, right? So it is actually setting the base. It is actually setting the foundation for all the conversations that are going to happen from the Scrum Ambassador side in the upcoming days. So I'll quickly give an introduction about me. Like what Peter said, you can follow me on LinkedIn as well. I'm an Agile coach by passion as well as by profession. I am the Agile coach at Wiley Global Technology in Sri Lanka. So that's the technology arm of Wiley Publishing, which is a US-based company. So I've been in the industry for more than 16 years, played different roles, starting off as a web developer, graphics designer, software engineer, right up to being the chief innovation officer of an IT company. So I've headed operations of an IT company as well. And in addition to that, in addition to being the Agile coach at Wiley Global Technology, I also have my own startup consulting and training company called Aptra Holdings Private Limited. So Aptra is a transformation consulting company. We do certifications related training on Agile, Scaled Agile, Management 3.0, IIBA, business analysis, and so on. And in addition to that, we provide transformation services for organizations. So I'll quickly move forward to the content and what I'm intending to cover. So I'll be focusing on the Agile Manifesto today. And I'll talk about the main parts of the Agile Manifesto. I'll be digging deep to each and every word sometimes of what we see in the Agile Manifesto. I'll be going into detail of the 4 Agile values and the supporting 12 principles that are there, right? So if we look at the Agile Manifesto, this was created in the year 2001, February, as we all know. And now we celebrated 20 years of the Agile Manifesto. I think everyone knows about the story of 17 project managers, including Alistair Cockburn, Jeff Sutherland, Ken Squabber, Ron Jeffries, and all, going on this skiing trip to discuss about success and failure of projects, right? Now we are 20 years into creation of this Agile Manifesto. Now we are about 16 or 17 years into creating the Scrum framework, right? And the Agile Manifesto has been applied to software development as well as to other areas as well. Now we see organizations and functional units like HR, finance, marketing, trying to move into Agile ways of working. So Agile is not only for software development now. Agile ways of working have evolved, but still there are people who are actually finding it difficult or finding problems in terms of really understanding the Agile Manifesto. So my intention for, yeah.
I'm sorry, could I just jump in here? You're showing the presenters mode, not the presentation mode. So they see the slides, they see, can we switch the screen around so that they get the right, maybe you're sharing the wrong screen, or maybe you've got that looks much better.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
No worries. Thanks a lot for that, Peter. Okay, so what I was saying was the Agile Manifesto, after creating the Agile Manifesto, it has taken more than 20 years now. Lots of people in projects, in programs, in different types of initiatives of different magnitude have been using these agile ways of working. But still, there are problems in terms of understanding, clearly understanding what this Agile Manifesto really is, and living the values in Agile. So my main objective for today is to actually decipher the Agile Manifesto, as well as talk about the Agile values and principles. Okay, let me just clear the screen. If there are any questions, please do let me know. I see a raised hand as well. Maybe I'll take questions if that's okay later on. Or Alberto, is there a question? Sorry.
Why don't you invite people to hold up their hand if there's a question?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll try to monitor the chat. Mm-hmm.
Great. Yeah. So yeah, please hold up your hand and raise your questions or add your questions to the chat. I'll move forward.
Yeah. If I hold up your hand, I mean using the reaction, the reactions in Zoom, not just holding up your hand on the camera, because we may not see that.
Yeah. Okay. So the Agile Manifesto consists of 73 powerful words, right? And each of these statements packs a punch. If we clearly decipher this, if we clearly break this down, it actually packs a punch and it actually adds a lot of meaning. So let's actually break this down. I'll start with the first statement itself. We are uncovering better ways of developing software by doing it and helping others to do it. When we say we are talking about the Agile team. Now we need to understand this. It is not only for software development. It involves all the stakeholders to get this software solution or this product done, this solution done, right? So we are uncovering. That means we are figuring things out. Agile is an empirical process. Empiricism is all to do with trying things out, figuring things out, exploring things. We might fail, but we will learn from it and we will figure out a better way of doing it, right? So we are figuring things out along the way. Things will not be clear right at the start itself. So the first statement itself, uncovering better ways of developing software, talks a lot about exploration. talks a lot about trying things out, figuring things out, right? And what do we actually do? Okay, we uncover better ways of developing software. How do we do it? By doing it, we'll try it out. So it talks about creating some sort of an alignment among everyone. There should be business stakeholders. There should be team members who are developing software. There should be alignment among all these stakeholders, from the people who are giving the requirements right down to the people who are implementing the software and people who are testing it. Alignment should be created. And the team members themselves are the ones who are doing it. So there needs to be collaboration. This word doing it talks about team members coming together, collaborating with one another, communicating with one another, trying it out, and checking whether it is successful or not, right? And what else do we actually do? We just don't do it. We'll also help others to do it as well. So there's a big message that is given over here. This organization should be a learning organization. An agile organization or an agile team should be a learning team. We will always constantly keep on learning, and we will constantly try to improve ourselves. So continuous improvement in terms of anything that we do. It can be designing a solution. It can be collecting requirements, eliciting requirements. It can be creating our test cases. With everything, we will learn. We will keep on learning. That will actually help us to become better as a team, as an organization, right? So this small statement itself, now this is actually one statement which a lot of people forget to talk about when it comes to the Agile Manifesto. People think that it's all to do with the values and the principles. Agile frameworks are all to do with the values and the principles. But the important point is to start with this first statement itself. This statement talks about learning organizations, alignment, collaboration among team members, and helping each other. So when we need to help each other, there needs to be respect for people, respect for opinions, respect for ideas, right? All these characteristics, good characteristics that should be there within team members, among team members, comes into the picture with this small statement, right? So I'll move forward. If there are any thoughts, any questions, please do raise them. I'll move forward. Let's dive deep into the Agile values, 4 Agile values. I've kept the slides really simple. No graphics, no animations. We'll directly talk about the 4 Agile values. The first Agile value, individuals and interactions over processes and tools. Now, another statement in the Agile Manifesto is with this idea of trying things out, helping each other do it, and us also doing it. The first statement, we as people who are practicing Agile, we will value what is there on our left-hand side more than what we see on our right-hand side. In each of these statements, I'll be going through 4 values. In each of these statements, we will value what is on our left-hand side over what is on our right-hand side. Okay, so if I go into each of these points now, I'll ask a simple question. Maybe you all can use your chat or unmute and answer this question. In your organizations, in your team environments, what is your primary method of communication? How do you all communicate with one another on a day-to-day basis? Anyone? So I'll check the chat as well. I see an answer.
Yeah, I can answer for my part. We use Teams.
Yeah.
Quite
Teams.
A great deal. Yeah.
Okay, Teams. I see email on the chat. How about the others? Slack, Teams, email, Slack. Okay. WhatsApp, emails. Okay. WhatsApp, Slack. Okay, so if you all were in office, what would be the way of communication? If you all were with your team members face to face, what would be any other way of communication? Working from home, I'm guessing that okay, most of the people are using Slack or WhatsApp or whatever.
Exactly, and I work in distributed teams, so yeah, Teams.
Yeah, Teams. How about if you all were in office If you all were in a physical location, I see face-to-face now coming up. Very good. Talking to one another. Okay. Face-to-face. Okay, very good. Now, these are all ways through which we actually communicate and converse with one another. I'll ask this question, okay, out of all these methods of communication, what would be the most effective? What would be the most effective? Face-to-face, talk to one another. Okay, very good. Right. Now, let's actually think about this. Even though we have the person that we need to talk to just seated in the next cubicle, if you were in office, right? Even though the person that we need to talk to is just a phone call away, we still send them an email, right? We still send them a WhatsApp message. We still send them a Teams message. Why do we do it? We could easily get up, stand up from our cubicle desk and go and talk to that person, right? Okay, I see some answers again. Habit, convenience. We feel that, okay, sending a chat message is easier, quicker, okay? For documentation purposes, okay, to keep a record, very good. Exactly, for the record, okay. Now, it's exactly what this Agile value also says, right? Processes and tools are required. The Agile Manifesto doesn't say that get rid of these tools and processes. These processes and tools are required. It's just that we should not overuse it or make these processes and tools become an overkill for our progress. Now, if we get stuck in our processes, for example, I'll give a good example now. We send an email to one of our stakeholders, ask them a question, and we sit on that email, expecting a response from that person. 1 day has passed, 2 days has passed, this person still hasn't responded. And we are still expecting a response from that person via an email. What we could have done is take a phone call, directly reach that person and tell them that, okay, this is what I expected from you, right? The first Agile value says, follow the processes, but do enough of the processes. Don't get stuck in the processes and forget about the people. Don't forget about the people. That's what this first value itself is saying. It's a set of people who are doing the work, not a set of tools or not a set of processes that are doing the work. It's a set of people with a certain amount of intellectual capacity, certain amount of knowledge, certain amount of skills that are actually doing the work, right? So the important point is these stakeholders actually collaborating with one another. So I would like to invite you all now think about your environment. It can be to do with estimation. It can be to do with prioritization. It can be to do with collecting the requirements, eliciting the requirements, can be anything. If in your environments, if your processes and your tools are hindering your progress, sit down, have a look at this Agile value and really see, okay, can I actually interact with my people, my peers or my stakeholders a little bit more and sort this out then and there. That's the first Agile value. It's a set of people who are doing the work. Let's prioritize the people and the interactions over the processes and tools, right? Second Agile value, working software over comprehensive documentation, right? Now, again, I'll ask a question from you all. Now, I'm sure you all have worked in environments where creating SRS documents, creating BRD documents, business requirements documents, really large documents was the norm, right? And the way of measuring progress was creating these documents. So we were really happy. We were really happy when we created a document with about 100 pages, got the sign off for it. We were really happy. In the past, we were celebrating. But actually, this particular value says, do enough documentation. Do enough documentation to get the product done, to get the software done, right? Now, what normally happens is if we focus on documentation, if we keep on creating documents, we tend to forget the software. At the end of 3 months or 6 months, we don't have any software to show. We get a false sense of achievement by creating documents, right? We feel happy that we created a document. We get a false sense of progress that we have achieved something. But actually, no software is there. That means we have nothing to show to our stakeholders or to our customers. We are not getting any feedback as soon as possible. And because of that, we might actually be going down a rabbit hole. We might actually be going down a rabbit hole in terms of creating the wrong solution for the stakeholders who are looking for this solution, right? If I shift to the left a little bit more, the statement says working software. Not just software, it talks about working software. Now that again is an important thing. What do we actually mean by working software? It means that we have designed the solution, done the coding, done the unit testing, done the functional testing, done the integration testing, and the software or the feature is in a releasable state. We have created a potentially shippable increment. If we want, we can actually get our stakeholders to use this solution. It's not a half-baked item. That's the main objective of this second value. Create a working software which is functioning properly end-to-end, and create your documents to an extent which will actually support creation of the software. Do enough documentation to support creating the working software. That's the second value. Third value, customer collaboration over contract negotiation. Now, typically what we do with our stakeholders whenever we do projects or whenever we need to do some sort of a solution development for a certain group of stakeholders, first thing that we do is we get into a contract. We sign an agreement. And what happens down the line is if something goes wrong, if we are not meeting the scope, if we are not meeting the timelines, if we are not meeting the budget, if we are not meeting the quality characteristics, the contract comes into the picture. The customers, the stakeholders, as well as the development team open up the contract document, and there's a really bad conversation or a really negative conversation that happens based on the contract, right? Okay, the contract states this. The contract states this. You are at fault. So there will be a lot of bad conversations that happen if we focus on the contract. What this Agile value says is, rather than focusing on the contract, focus on collaboration and collaborating with everyone that is involved in the software development. Get your business stakeholders, get your developers, get your product owners, get everyone involved at the initial stage itself. Start the conversation, start the collaboration at the initial stage itself. Make your stakeholders part of the team, right? Right throughout the solution development, make them part of the team. Make them also feel the pain, as well as make them also feel the success, right? If something goes wrong, then and there, since they have been part of the team, they will know, okay, this is where it went wrong. We need to support this team. If this is there, the dependence on the contract and looking at the terms in the contract will reduce, and we'll focus more on collaborating with our customers and our stakeholders. That's the third value in the Agile Manifesto. The fourth and last value, responding to change over following a plan. In traditional software development, we go for a predictable plan. We call it a predictable plan, right? In waterfall ways of working, in our past ways of plan-driven ways of working, we go for a really big plan upfront, and we call it a predictable plan. What we want is we want to be able to predict what is going to happen in another 3 months' time, in another 6 months' time. We want to reduce uncertainty as much as possible, right? We want to make sure that everything is clear upfront. in a traditional plan. We want to reduce the risk as much as possible. But as we know, software development is not a linear thing. It's not done in a linear manner. It's software development is a changeable thing. Everything keeps on changing. The requirements keep on changing, the environment, the technology, everything keeps on changing. As well as the reasons for change also keeps on changing. Right? The reasons for change. The customers will say, okay, I had this reason. That's why I asked you to create this particular feature. Now my reason has changed. Change this feature. So the reasons for change, reasons for the features also keeps on changing. So in Agile, in software development, in today's world, predictable plans don't work. We need an evolving plan. We need an adaptable way of planning. We call it adaptive planning. We start off with a small plan. We start off with a high-level plan, right? And that plan might be for the next 3 months. And we break it down into smaller plans, maybe for the next 2 weeks and for the next 2 weeks. And this plan keeps on evolving. As and when we identify more and more details, we go and update the plan, right? The important thing about this fourth value is this. We should quickly be able to pivot. We don't want to go down a wrong path. If we are doing a wrong thing, we want to identify that mistake as soon as possible and change our path. If we have a really big plan, it's like a really big ship, like Titanic. Trying to change the direction of Titanic would be really difficult, right? But if you have a smaller level plan, if you have a small boat, it's easily navigable. You can change the direction of that particular boat much easier, right? So we want to make our plans, we want to make our designs, we want to make our solution as flexible as possible. We want to be resilient to be able to respond to whatever changes that happen in the environment. So that's the fourth and final value. Again, if there are any questions, if there are any thoughts, please do put on the chat. Hope I got you all to think about these values and the first statement in the Agile Manifesto a little bit deeper or in a different way. I'll move forward. I'll quickly go through the 12 Agile principles. I'll not spend a lot of time, but I'll go through them one by one. First Agile principle. Now, first things first, these Agile principles are an addition to the Agile Manifesto, right? And the principles actually guide you. Principles actually guide you on how to practice Agile. Values talk about the mindset. Values will set the mindset and talk about what you and you all as a team must believe in. Whereas the principles will guide you on how to act in an Agile environment, how to practice Agile. First principle, our highest priority is to satisfy the customer through early and continuous delivery of valuable software. Who is this? Who are we talking about over here in our? We are talking about the development team, software developers. The software developers or the Agile team's highest priority, we have other priorities as well, but our highest priority is to keep the customer in the center. So this is like the first principle that we can actually put in the middle, and we can put the customer in the middle. And we need to focus on customer. So customer centricity is the first aspect that is discussed in the first principle. So our highest priority is to satisfy the customer. How? Through early and continuous delivery of valuable software. So we talked about valuable software earlier as well. So it's a software that has been coded, tested, properly integrated, and it's working as a releasable piece of code or piece of functionality. But how do we want to do it? We want to deliver it as early as possible and continuously, right? Now, again, why do we need early delivery of valuable software? So that we can actually get the feedback faster. If we have to wait for 3 months to deliver something and get the feedback, that's not good. Things might have changed even within that 3-month time period. We want to create something, get it verified by our customers, our stakeholders as soon as possible. Ask them, are you satisfied with this? Early delivery and continuous delivery. Now, this is also important. If we are creating valuable software, do it every 2 weeks. That's what is discussed in Scrum. Every 2 weeks, create something that is valuable, that is tested, right? That can be used by the stakeholders. Now, if you deliver something this week or these 2 weeks, and if you forget about it, and if you don't deliver anything else for another 1 month, that is not continuous delivery. So this first principle talks about 2 main points: customer centricity and cadence-based delivery. Work based on a continuous cadence, which repeats every 2 weeks or based on a particular timeline. That's the first principle. I'll go to the second principle. Welcome changing requirements, even late in development. Agile processes harness change for customers' competitive advantage. So if we have a plan that is evolving, we can actually embrace change. We can welcome change even late in software development. Now, this particular principle doesn't say that welcome every change blindly. It does not say that. Welcome change with a reason. So if your stakeholders, if your customers ask for a change in the software, ask them why. Ask yourself why. Is this actually needed? Is it actually worth it? Would it actually deliver value to our stakeholders? Our objective should be to provide the customer a competitive advantage. Through the solution that we develop, through the change that we do, we need to make sure that the customer gets some sort of a value. If the customer doesn't know what he or she is expecting, and if we just blindly go and do a change, that doesn't add any value to the customer. So that's the second principle. Quickly move to the third one. Deliver working software frequently, from a couple of weeks to a couple of months, with a preference for a shorter time scale. Again, this goes hand in hand with the first one as well. Deliver working software frequently. How frequently, the Agile team needs to decide. Now, based on the Agile framework, again, it will differ. If it is Scrum, like I said, it might be a 2-week cycle or a 2 to 4 week cycle. If it is Kanban, you might be releasing even a little bit more frequently. From a couple of weeks to a couple of months, we want the time scale to be as short as possible so that we deliver value as fast as possible and get a feedback. And that's why it says, have a preference for a shorter time scale. Fourth principle, business people and developers must work together daily throughout the project. So it's not just the software developers who are responsible for delivering valuable software. Even the business stakeholders, even our process owners, even our business owners, our sponsors, they also need to be part of it. Make them part of your team. Not from time to time. Make them part of your team throughout the project. Make them part of the team on a regular basis, right? Business people and developers must work together daily. Now, don't take this word literally. It does not mean that both the parties need to sit together on a day-to-day basis and deliver the software. There needs to be constant conversation and communication between business people and the developers right throughout the project in order to deliver valuable software. I'll quickly move on. Build projects around motivated individuals. Give them the environment and support they need and trust them to get the job done. This principle directly addresses our leaders, our managers in the team, right? So the managers or the leaders need to focus on people and building the people. The Agile Manifesto, the first value itself says it's a set of people that are doing the work. So people development and continuous learning and development of the people is important. How do we do that? We need to motivate them. It might be by giving them training. It might be by giving them mentoring or coaching sessions. Ask them what problem they are facing. What is actually hindering you all from progressing? Do you all need any additional help? Right? So provide them the training, coaching, and mentoring and support they need, but trust them to get the job done. I'll give an example. When I was doing software coding, maybe about 10, 12 years ago, there was a time when my project manager always used to stand behind me. And until I gave an update late in the evening, I was not allowed to go home. There was no trust. They wanted an update from me even at 7 or 8 in the night. If not, I'm not allowed to go home, right? That is not good. We need to trust our developers to get the job done. We need to trust them to identify what needs to be done as well as how it needs to be done. They know technology best. Developers know technology best, right? They know the requirements better because they are the ones who are exploring the requirements. Get them the environment or give them the environment to do the development, but support them in that particular endeavor. That's the 5th principle. 6th principle, welcome changing requirements, even late in development. Agile processes harness change for the customer's competitive advantage. So we saw this earlier also, things change rapidly. Reasons for change also change rapidly. And these changes might come even late in development. Our solutions, our designs must be flexible enough, right? So things like agile architectures, agile designs of the solution, agile ways of elaborating the requirements are really important so that we can welcome changes even late in development. But welcome change with a reason. Do your impact analysis properly and see whether it will actually give a competitive advantage for the customers. 7th principle, working software is the primary measure of progress. So we talked about this earlier as well, so I won't spend a lot of time over here. Working software should be your yardstick to measure your progress, not documentation, not anything else. 8th principle, agile processes promote sustainable development. The sponsors, developers, and users should be able to maintain a constant pace indefinitely. So agility should promote an environment where people can actually work at a constant pace right throughout the project. I'll give an example again. So there was a project once where I worked in. From the start itself, people were working from 9 o'clock in the morning till about 9, 10 in the night. And this needed to happen for about 6 months. 3 months down the line, half of the team that started off had left the company. It's not sustainable, right? You can't be working from 9 o'clock in the morning till 9 o'clock in the night, 12 hours per day, every day. No weekends as well. Weekends were also not spared. You can't actually sustain. It becomes stressful for the people who are actually doing the work. There needs to be some time for the people who are doing the work to recharge their batteries. People who are doing the work, right? We are talking about knowledge workers. We are talking about people who are using their cognitive powers and so on to actually do the development. If we don't give them time to recharge their batteries, go back and do something else, enjoy life and come back, it will not actually improve the performance of the team, right? We all know about people being stressed out and how it actually impacts the performance of people. So multitasking, doing a lot of parallel activities, these are all not good. And those will hinder people working at a constant pace. We want that constant pace to be there indefinitely. Not for 1 month or 2 months. They need to be working at that same pace, producing at that same pace with a constant velocity indefinitely. It's like traveling down a highway at 100 kilometers per hour. And we should be able to travel at 100 kilometers per hour to as much distance as possible. Now, if our speed varies, that means we are not having a constant pace. Okay, that's the 8th principle. 9th principle. Continuous attention to technical excellence and good design enhances agility. This talks about the runway, right? Again, I'll take an example. Think about your airport. Think about the runway in your airport. Think about a plane that is taking off, right? So why do we have the runway maybe for one kilometer or 2 kilometers? Why does the plane travel along that runway and pick up speed? Because it needs space. It needs space as well as space for it to take off at the end of the runway, right? So if your architecture, if your technical framework, if your engineering framework is thorough, or if your engineering framework is continuously excelling or improving, and if your solution and the design continuously improves, right? If your design is agile, then it will actually enhance the agility of the solution as well as the team. So paying continuous attention through things like code refactoring and other techniques that we use are really important to make sure that you have your runway in tip-top shape. 10th principle, simplicity. The art of maximizing the amount of work not done is essential. If you are thinking about your product continuously improving, you will have a backlog that is continuously expanding. We want our product to continuously improve. We don't want our product to die down, right? I think we all, I hope everyone knows about the product life cycle. Product has a growth, maturity, and a decline. We don't want the product to be at that maturity stage for a long period of time. We don't want the product to be declining. We want that to be growing as much as possible. How can we make that possible? Only if we identify more and more features to be added to the solution, right? Not just in terms of the solution, we need to also think about the team as well. How do we actually identify improvements for the team so that the team also improves along the way? So if we have a backlog of work as a team, and if this backlog of work is constantly there, that is good. That is what is meant by the 10th principle. 2 more to go. 11th principle, the best architectures, requirements, and designs emerge from self-organizing teams. It's the team that is doing the work. It's the team that is figuring out how things need to be done. It's the team that is trying things out. It's the team that is designing and coding and testing the solution. So the team itself will figure out, okay, how can we do it better? What needs to be done will come from our business stakeholders, but how we do it and why are we doing it in this manner? Those are the questions that the developers and the team members needs to ask. And that will enable the team to figure out better ways of doing it, and better architectures or better designs of the solution will emerge as a result. Lastly, at regular intervals, the team reflects on how to become more effective, then tunes and adjusts its behavior accordingly. Constantly, the team needs to check and act on what they are doing. Check and act on the product that they are developing, as well as check and act on the process or the agile way of working that they are following, right? See what can we do better. Are we actually working at an optimal level? We are following these practices, we are doing these practices, but what can we do better actually, right? If you are doing a daily stand-up, can we do it a little bit better? Can we incorporate something like a meet after board or walking the wall as a concept for our daily stand-up? If you are doing estimation, can we do our story point estimation a little bit better? From time to time, the team needs to reflect and adjust, tune and adjust the behavior accordingly. So those are the 12 Agile principles again. So I've gone through the Agile Manifesto, the values and the principles in detail. I deciphered each and every point one by one. I hope I was able to give you all some food for thought in terms of looking at the values and principles a little bit in a different way. So yeah, go forth and be agile. Thank you very much, and you all can follow us again. I've included the links or the QR codes to follow us. Thank you very much, and I would like to see whether there are any questions.
I haven't seen any questions in the chat, but what I'd be really interested to hear is, kind of which of these values and principles resonate most. Oh, I wish we'd done this. Oh my God, if we'd only done this, life would have been so much better. Or, maybe there's some big dissonances. We did this and it just got us into trouble. So I'm just kind of wondering, what, if there's anyone out there who'd like to share an experience, positive or negative, with the values and principles of the manifesto. Ninad.
Hello. Thank you guys for taking the time to do this. I don't have any experience to share. However, I do have a quick question. Is there any recommendation for a Scrum Master volunteer-based position? How to get that? Because I have a certificate and I just don't have that much experience. So I'm trying to see what's the best way to get foot into the door. If the question makes sense. So to be more of a volunteer or intern Scrum Master.
Peter, do you have an answer for that?
It's interesting. Here in Switzerland, there was just a post on LinkedIn of some company was offering, internships, I think is the magic word. Okay, internships are opportunities to work someplace and not get paid for it so that you get good experience. I'm actually kind of wondering if that's a good thing, because it kind of sets the expectation that we're going to work for free. And unfortunately, I don't know about your landlord, but my landlord really doesn't believe in letting me live here for free. So I would see that as a bit of a challenge. Kind of a bad precedent. But having said that, so one thing to do is to look for volunteer organizations. Okay, there are examples of churches, PTAs, almost anywhere would probably benefit, from something of an agile approach, especially if you do it lightweight. Start with those 6 principles, cadence, ownership, tangible results. Okay, what tangible results can we produce by next week? And that would kind of work almost anywhere. And so kind of create your own opportunity. Where do you live?
I live in Fairfax, Virginia.
Fairfax, Virginia. I know that in the Washington, D.C. area, there is a very active Agile community. There are a number of recurring meetups organized by the Scrum trainings there. I would connect with one of the local communities and, start talking to people.
Yeah, I connected with everyone. So
Okay.
I was a project manager for one painting company, and I was trying to take more of a Scrum Master approach rather than project manager, which the owners at the time, they didn't know that I was just doing that on my own, and I realized that it's working. But me as a project manager title, as a project manager title on my resume doesn't really give me that much opportunities. And you raised good points about landlord and mortgage and stuff, everything. It's just that everything you said, it makes total sense, but I can either go back to do sales, or I can stick with my desire and passion and being willing to wait for the opportunity and change my have a career change.
So one observation I've made about job hunting is that it's a miserable process. I think it's something that's really deeply in need of being reinventing, because the cycle efficiency of hiring someone, from the customers, from the employer's point of view, they'll spend half a year or a year looking for someone. They may turn them down at the last minute. And in that 6 months to a year, they've invested, maybe 1 or 2 person days in the search, and so that's a cycle efficiency down around 1%. If that was an IT project, we'd say it's not moving. So I don't know, that might be a place to start the discussion. But, one of the things I've actually been working with job hunters here in Switzerland, and, they put out 20 applications a month and they get 21 rejections. I mean, it's just, but on the other hand, the times you get told no don't count. The only one that counts is the one who says yes. So I would encourage you, persevere, keep asking, keep circulating in these groups, and sooner or later, and it could happen tomorrow, it could be 6 months from now, the right thing, the right opportunity will come up. But one way to look at it might be shadowing. You'd like to shadow a Scrum Master for maybe start at a week or two. So you're not, that might feel like a less permanent thing. But the other thing is don't sell yourself short. Okay. What doesn't cost anything isn't worth anything. And so if you're looking for, if you say, hey, I'll work for free, I'll say, well, what do I want with you? You're not worth anything. Psychology is weird. I don't quite.
Yeah.
So believe in yourself.
I don't want this session to be focused on me and my problems. I just wanted to hear input from someone who has been in this industry for a while to hear opinion how you guys started it. So thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay. Yeah. Well, maybe someone else wants to add. Go ahead, Rumesh.
I can also add something. So how I started off as a Agile Scrum Master was I started playing a sort of a dual role. I was playing the role of a business analyst, and I said, look here, I have these skills. I have these leadership skills. I can facilitate sessions. Give me the Scrum Master role also. I'll play that role. So that's how I actually started off. And maybe another advice that I can give is like what Peter said, don't undersell. I mean, if you have those capabilities, make that visible a little bit more. I mean, write something, show that you can do something on LinkedIn, do something like that to create your visibility and add it to your resume. That will add some value. Yeah.
Rumesh, Ninette, that was a really good question. How did you get started? Okay, because as Rumesh was telling his story, I was thinking about my story. And I was working for a consulting company we were a web agency. We developed web solutions for, kind of medium and large companies, and had a very, very waterfall process. And I came in there, I had just read Ken Schwaber's second book, Agile Project Management with Scrum. And, my reaction was, wow, finally a way to organize people that made sense. And so I started speaking about Scrum in the company and talking about it, what we could do with it. And people said, oh, that's interesting. That's interesting. We actually tried to offer a project to an insurance company using Scrum. And it was funny because the guy who would have been the customer, he was, conceptually very interested. But when it came down to actually buying something, the people who really had the decision-making authority, all they really wanted to do was, kind of check to see if their internal IT was giving them a decent offer or not. And they weren't interested in trying something new. And so we didn't get the business. Where I got to do my first project was when one of the projects that was happening in our company, it was a big project and it was going south. And it was at the point where their CEO was screaming at our CEO because their customer's CEO was screaming at them. And so the ship was sinking. And at the time, I wasn't assigned to a project, and they said, Peter, can you save this ship? And I said, of course I can save the ship. And I was advised to stay away from this project because it was the biggest disaster in the whole company. But I took that as a as a mandate to introduce Scrum. Discovered very quickly that I needed to get permission and agreement from the team to do Scrum, even if I had a mandate from the powers that be. But we started doing Scrum, we saved the ship, and I never looked back. Okay, so maybe coming in as an Agile coach or coming in as a Scrum Master for you is too new. Well, go in with what they'll buy, look for your sinking ship, and then that's the time to introduce Scrum and agility.
Right.
Anyway, hope that works for you, or I hope you find
thank you guys.
Or you get some other brilliant idea. You never know what opportunity is going to bite.
Exactly. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to say thank you very much. I'm going to give a friendly reminder that we have we've got a whole program. If you scroll back in the chat, you'll find our you'll find the announcements, and I'd really like to see you at one of the upcoming events. And Rumesh, do you have anything else that you'd like to share or add or?
No, so I'd like to say thank you very much, everyone, for joining and then actively participating as well. I hope I did justice for the time that you all spent with me, and got you all to think about the Agile Manifesto as well as the principles a little bit deeper. Yeah, so thank you very much, and do join the Scrum Ambassadors sessions, because we'll be discussing lots more interesting points in the upcoming sessions. Yes.
Yeah. Our next one starts at the top of the hour. That is about 45 minutes from now. And if this was an introduction to the Agile values and principles, the next one is going to be, well, how do you actually live those values and principles? And what does it mean to live them versus doing them? So I hope to see you all back in about 45 minutes, and I wish you a great rest of the day, rest of evening, rest of morning, whatever the appropriate time zone is for you. Thank you.